You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
Hello mates, welcome back to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. Bloody Rick and Anna are here.
Not really.
They're not doing great, but they're here, and that's what's important. No, they're fine. Everything's fine. Anyway, this is going great. So what we're talking about today is talkie versions. Like all things talkie related. We want to cover like infamously good or infamously bad voice acting work in games. We want to talk about games perhaps that had an option, like a lot of the Lucas and Sierra games in the early mid-90s that you could play the floppy without it or the CD with it, and just kind of talk about what it does to the experience when it's good, what it does to the experience when it's bad. Do we ever miss it? All the things. We'll talk about all the things. So
I have never complained about a game that had no voice acting.
Neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good show, because you know what? We all agree. Let's just cut on out of here. I mean,
so yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's a big risk to do voice acting in a game, because even when it's good, it's not always that good. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of we just set the bar so low, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there are definitely great voice actors out there. There are some games that do it really well, but I also think that there are the ones that are legit good, and then I think there's a kind of a lower tier that we just kind of shrug off and say, yeah, it's great, because comparing it to a very low standard.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right, like the employees in the office are the actors' standard.
Yeah,
that was our jumping off point.
Well, yeah, that was a jumping off point, but even that nobody really enjoyed. Like, no one defends those.
No, well, I am prepared to defend one of them, and I'm not sure if this one even gets bloody stick. Does it get the stick?
What are you? What?
Having a real old-fashioned kind of week here. I'm just gonna have some black licorice and butter cookies. I do like old man food, though. No, they're delicious, right?
Old?
They are so good.
My eating habits are apparently very similar to an old man's. I do have a Werther's in my pocket right now.
What's
anyone
wrong with
is
Werther's?
interested.
Yeah, those
What's
are
going
so
on
good.
here?
Those are old people foods.
Yeah, nothing's wrong. It's just, I guess we're out of touch, because, you got to realize that that you're old now if you're defending them. But
the game was so depressed in a very short period of time.
Yeah, that's that's.
I really don't like you
bad.
anymore.
And this was the last podcast episode they ever made.
There's nothing wrong with liking a good butterscotch. All right,
No.
I love butterscotch.
So good.
A nice hard toffee.
Oh yes.
I like a nice plain butter cookie, especially if I can do something DIY with the tin it came in when I'm done.
Are these things that only old people are supposed to like, or is this just like things that you've had in your house for a very long time, so they're old now to you, and you just discovered them in the attic, and you're like, sweet butter cookies from the 80s.
I'm very passionate about butter cookies. It's the prior. These things I'm listing are not on TikTok. There's no kid out there that's putting a spin on Danish butter cookies in a tin. Or calling it putting a spin on it.
I can feel the sugar crystals on my tongue as we talk about it right now,
Yeah. Well, do you actually do anything with those tins other than make sewing kits?
I put old buttons in them when I find them.
Ooh, buttons?
Which is kind of a kit.
There's currently 3 buttons in there.
Lovely.
Wait, does having sewing kits also date me?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, darn. We're so old, Rick. Oops.
Just talking about sewing dates you. Any conversational topic that involves sewing, stitching, it's just,
right.
yeah.
I'm out of here. I'm done.
We're good. Well, to lighten the mood, let's get back to talking about games that came on floppy disk. So
that won't make us feel old at all.
So in a miraculous act that happens every 100 episodes, I remember what I was saying 16 minutes ago, and I'm gonna bring us full circle. So, buddy, just be astonished.
All right.
The voice acting for Larabo 2, I never thought about it. I never thought about it. So that just means that it's not horrible. And so therefore, I will say that that's the one game that was done, not the one, that's one of the games that was done by Sierra employees.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty damn decent once you know that. Exactly. Like just from you saying, I'm like, I get it. It's not great, but it's really,
No.
it's passable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't played very far into that with the voice acting version. I only really played that game on the floppy disk. And the only time I played it with the voice acting was recently, like a couple years ago, 1 year ago. And I didn't get very far. This isn't what made me stop, but it just so happens to be that I got to the part where you go to the speakeasy and they start playing the archaeologist song. And that alone makes me resent that they have a talkie version of it.
Fair enough. Yep. Yeah, fair enough. And I should add, just for discretion or whatever, it's probably the wrong word, doesn't matter, that I never actually played the talkie version myself either.
Oh, sorry.
What? Did you at least listen to it? Or, like, do you know what you're...
Yeah, I have a point of reference, and I played, like, the first 30 minutes again one day with it on. And then also, like, you know, the YouTube videos, probably pushing up roses, things like that. So, you know, it gives you a good idea. I can picture the super bassy voice of the guy whose name starts with a D, maybe.
Okay, but did you get to the part with the archaeologist song? Because I honestly don't get why people love that song so much. I cannot stand it, and it's like, maybe I can kind of appreciate that it kind of captures that little that sort of tone of the 20s or whatever. But it's just so annoying, and it's played at like a speakeasy, so it just doesn't really fit for me. It doesn't fit with the scene. It's just it's annoying first and foremost before anything else. It's just, oh god, I just don't get why people love that song.
Well, do people love it, or do they do they respect it, or do they love it? Because you can love Girl in the Tower, but you don't respect it.
I think they love and respect it. Like, okay, people keep wanting to like re-record it and stuff, and people, I don't know. I would really feel a lot better if people are just kind of ironically liking it.
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
Like
Girl in the Tower.
Yeah, like Girl in the Tower. I hear Girl in the Tower a bit more polarizing. Like, I hear both sides of the argument on that one, but I only ever hear people really like celebrate the archaeologist song. And I just, I kind of bite my lip because I don't want to like rain on anyone's fun if they really enjoy it. But I don't understand it. Anyways,
I'm just
that's not voice acting, so it's not really. I don't want to spend too much more time on that. But I just wanted to say that was brought in because of the CD talkie version, and on those grounds alone, I'd rather just play without anything.
Right, yeah. Well, and to those listening, maybe vaguely remembered or can't think of it, it's very like Betty Boop-ish.
Yeah.
And I think it's very authentic to that Betty Boop kind of sound. So like, if you're into that, I could see being into this, because it's pretty bang on. But like, I'm not into that, so yeah. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I feel like I get it, because if you like the Betty Boop thing, you might you'd be a candidate for liking the song.
Did this game come in a non-talkie version? Because I don't remember any voices when I played this game at all. Yeah. But I also didn't have a sound card until much later on.
There's a floppy version.
Yeah, because I'm just listening in the background to this song. Yeah, very Betty Boop-like. Yeah. Like, I will say, baby got shortening, like that kind of style.
I will say one thing that's kind of generally, I don't know if it's a positive note or more just sort of like a trivia thing. It's about, the first line is, I want to marry an archaeologist. And the cool thing about that is that that's actually, to the best of my knowledge, otherwise a really big coincidence, that Agatha Christie married an archaeologist.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah, that's got to be way too big of a coincidence.
Yeah, it can't be a coincidence. But every time I say something and feeling all sure of myself, it just never works out. Apparently, the whole from last episode, the Godfather with the oranges, that didn't even turn out to be true.
Right, that was a coincidence.
Yeah, that was just a pure coincidence, apparently, according to all this like trivia stuff.
Seemed like it would be, but yeah, I get it. Yeah,
it's weird.
So weird.
I think we're on the same page with talkie versions, and so I'll just kind of summarize my stance, which let me know if it is or isn't yours. Which is the best case scenario is that the talkie version ends up as good as the non-talkie version for me. Like it's a risk to put it in the game, because if it doesn't work, even if one character doesn't work, that's a chink in the armor. And yeah, I mean, I'll definitely let a game pass if 1 or 2 or 3 characters aren't the greatest voice acting quality. That's fine. But I'm just saying, it's like, you're really exposing yourself. You're taking hits, taking damage when you put on a voice acting cast, unless every single one of them is good. And then there's the other matter of, even when they're good, if they don't match what I've already got in my head for that character. And this is such a personal thing. It's not their fault. Like, they couldn't have guessed how I would have interpreted their character. But regardless, if it doesn't match my own internal interpretation of the character, like, the whole game gets this uncanny valley, like, it feels weird and off kind of thing. Cause I'm like, I just don't feel like that's them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's risky.
It's totally risky. I have a few opinions on talkies, but for one, like, I don't mind them, and it's nice to hear what a voice would sound like, and I liked the novelty when they first started coming out, but for various reasons, talkie games don't often fit into my lifestyle. There's a lot of other people here, I have a lot of stuff going on, it's not quiet enough for me to concentrate and listen to what people are saying in a talking game. Oftentimes I read too fast, so I've read the words 7 or 8 times.
That was going to be a point I was going to make, yeah.
Yeah, definitely before they're done talking, because I'm like, okay, I've looked at the picture, I've looked at every little pixel, I'm reading the thing over and over again. And on top of that, like, sometimes a game won't let you separate, like, music and the words, which also can be difficult. I want that. Or like a game like Dragon's Age, where if you turn off speech, you don't get to hear the little, like, parlay conversation that the characters have when you're off and about, but you also, like, you miss out because there is no words for that.
Right.
So you can only have half the game if you have the speech off, so they kind of force you into it.
Right. So I was going to say, to your point, that most of the time, usually one of 2 things happen, and it's really the only 2 options, is that either I've read through, and I'm not even a fast reader, but I'll read through before they're done, and I'll just click. So like, I don't even hear half the dialogue that's in there, because I'll hear the first half of a sentence and then not the second. Or they don't give you that option, and then I just get really antsy because I'm just waiting for them to get done. Because I just really, whether there's a text box or not, I just get so impatient, like, waiting for people to stop talking.
And like, I want it, when I click, I want them to stop talking and the text box to remain up. And then I click again and the text box can finish cycling through its text and then disappear, and that's fine. But like, how much time do we really have to play a freaking game nowadays, guys? Like, I'm not going to listen to all of it, because this is a 20-hour game. If I don't have them speaking out loud, it's only a 12-hour game, and maybe I'll actually complete it.
Right. Yeah. Well, another area of contention for me is like, well, another thing we'll get into maybe down the line that I'll just kind of lay the tracks for now and say that it's come up on the show before where some of the modern indies use partial voice acting, and I'm not sure if you were on the show yet. It might have just been Rick and I, and I'm trying to think of the game, if it was Red Strings Club. I'm not quite sure, but
no, it's Christopher's.
Oh, nice. Yes. And definitely one more as well. But regardless, I think we ultimately concluded and dissected that it did work. It didn't really necessarily make it jarring or weird that every now and then they did. And I was just going to say that conversely, what bothers me that King's Quest VI is a good example of being really guilty of, which is giving flavor text lines, voice dialogue, now immediately, I'm sorry, it just popped in my head that Space Quest 6 does it, and it does it brilliantly because it's Gary Owens and probably no other reason. But King's Quest 6 makes other mistakes where, like, every other description to whatever you're doing is, Alexander, you can't blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you have to hear that guy say Alexander 1,100 times. Like, without exaggerating, I'm sure it's in the thousands.
Yeah. I mean, the narrator voice was really good in Quest for Glory 4, but I mean, they got John Rhys Davies for that, so what do you really expect? Like,
Exactly.
kind of went straight to the top on that one.
And that was another game where they did a lot of that ad-libbing, like you're speaking with the elephant farmers and what you're hearing is not what you're reading. So you really have to leave the voice on to get everything out of the game.
Yeah.
At least your first playthrough.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, it was funny, the Quest for Glory 4 voices, but I'm kind of glad that I played it without the voices first. And to your point, Paul, the voice acting that was generally pretty good. You know, obviously Katrina hit it out of the park. A lot of the side characters hit it out of the park. You had those the comic relief guys in the inn who they were funny at it anyways. Everything was good until I heard Igor's voice, and it was so bad. Like the last time I played it was like the first time I listened to it with the full voice acting. And I just didn't even read anything Igor said because I just rapidly clicked through him so I wouldn't have to hear his voice.
Right.
Like it was that bad. Like it was actually like turn it off heat for me.
Yeah, and that's back to that risk thing. That's another aspect where I was looking through Adventure Gamers forums and just reading people's opinions on this topic earlier today, and somebody had mentioned a game, and they were like, the voice acting was, I forgot the name of the game. It was one of those like 2008 adventure games, like in that weird era. But regardless, he was like, the acting, the quality is good. It's just the tone of the main person's voice bothers me, and like, and I've heard that before, where certain people just get a weird thing with the tones of certain people's voice, like it just I don't mean like Gilbert Gottfried, like, something like obvious or whatever, but
I would love Gilbert Gottfried to read for a narrator.
I want him to be a parrot in a game so bad.
I wouldn't mind him as Cedric, though.
See, I didn't play the talkie version of that game the first time, so I had no idea Cedric in any way sounded annoying or would be annoying people until much later.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just really love it if there was like, if you got voice acting for like the early AGI games where a lot of the flavor text was just sort of generic text. So you just have like a narrator just there saying like, I don't understand Apple or something like.
We should do that as a read through. That would be hilarious.
I've brought this up a few times before, but I did try to, I did play Echo Quest, and the first time I played it was with the voices, and I didn't hate it. It was just that it felt like I was playing edutainment. Like I felt like I was playing a classroom game.
They're teaching you things, yeah.
Not even just that. I don't mind when I learn things from a game, but it just sounded like it sounded like I was playing a game made and played at Science World, and it felt so like we're making this specifically to be educational, and therefore we're going to aim it at grade 5 kids or something, right?
Right.
And for the first like while of playing this game, I was really wondering why people like it so much, because it just felt so like, is this even a game? What the heck is this?
Yeah.
This feels like after school,
pandering,
or during school, even, right? And then it just sort of dawned on me at some point to just sort of like imagine what would be like without the voice acting. And then I was like, oh, suddenly if I just imagine without the voice acting, it feels like an adventure game. But with the voice acting, it sounded like a classroom interactive assignment or something.
Yeah. No, that game's a perfect kind of like case study for pros and cons. It is a little on the extreme example because because of the kid factor, the education factor. But yeah, I grew up played it many times. I really loved that game as a kid, and I never played the talkie version, the CD-ROM version. So we had the opposite experience where I honestly I wasn't even aware that I had a talkie version until we did the episode on it and talked about it, and so I checked it out, and it just completely changes the tone of the game. Completely. Like to me it was a game I would quickly I think I even told people, like, hey, don't be scared by the Discovery Series part if you're a grown ass person, because it's still fun. But man, if they put on the talkie one, they'd be like, geez Louise.
Nope.
Thanks a lot, Paul, for that recommendation.
Right. You know what the sad thing is about that too, and also with the Igor's voice in Quest for Glory 4, is that they are actually good voices. Like, they are good voice actors, and they're doing a good job. It's just that they, like you said, Paul, they just ruined the tone. Yeah,
exactly. And another one, while we're close to the same territory, was Willy Beamish, where I never played I hadn't heard the talkie version till like a year or so ago. It was another one I just wasn't aware they did a talkie thing too. And yes, it ruins Willy Beamish. It's that game is already just so confusing. It's
I didn't play the talkie version either. It was the disc version, because I got it in like grade 8, so I didn't know any of it had voices till you know what, which is why I think sometimes when I'd go to play a game later on, I'd be like, I don't remember this. Why is everything so different? But it's like, oh, because there's words now and actual music.
Right. Yeah, especially the music. And with Beamish, I'll say too, to a point that we touched on earlier, that I didn't play much of it. I really just put it on to see what it sounded like, kind of thing. But it seemed like it was all passable except for his sister, Brianna, who's like in the game, she's like learning French, and she's already like a bratty, sister to begin with. And then they just gave her just the worst. I mean, just the most accurate voice ever, where it's just a really bratty, obnoxious, insufferable 8-year-old sounding girl, or
the kind of girl you might want to push on
the
kind of girl you might want to push on the swing a little bit too hard.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. But the point I'm making there is it's that's a good. Let's just say the rest of them were solid, which I can't confirm, but let's just say they were. That's a good example of one bad egg ruining the experience, because she's in the game just enough.
That was such a good analogy. The one bad the one bad egg ruining the experience. That was just so flawless.
You know what else kind of pulls me out of it, when, like, especially in those early FMV games, do you remember how grainy the voice sounded? It was like they flicked on an oldie-timey VCR and then had their voices rumble through them. It didn't quite work.
I, shortly after we had David home on the show, I did look up some clips of Phantasmagoria, and I couldn't really tell. As far as I could tell, the voices were fine in terms of voice acting, but it was so clearly on a very untreated soundstage that even when they were in an outdoors location, you could hear echoes, like reverb from the walls.
I noticed that too.
On the bridge. Yeah, there's a scene on the bridge where they're outside, and it sounds like they're in a warehouse. Like, just the worst reverb.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to be an audiophile for that to take you out of the moment. It's very, like, humans don't sound like that in nature.
Yeah.
I can't even pinpoint the games, but there's been a few over the years that just won't let me not have voice for whatever reason. Like, maybe even there was a few that didn't even have text. I don't know if you guys can think of any specific examples, but during that weird time period, I think they didn't even bother.
I can't really remember. I think when I played...
Sorry, dear, what was the question again? The games that...
You had voice but didn't give you full text on it, so it sort of left you forced into having voice.
Yeah, I know Sierra's guilty of that. I can't think of the specific games, but I know, like, New Rising Sun is just, an internet user out there who does awesome patches for Sierra games, and he's patched a lot of the CD-ROM versions to do both now. So I can't. I don't know about LucasArts. I'm trying to think if it's a Sierra specific sin, if you will, because it is really annoying if you can't read it and just go when you want to. But yeah, for anyone listening, go to SierraHelp.com and you can get New Rising Sun patches for tons of games, and it kind of it's like his patches are like the best of all worlds. He takes all the best Easter eggs and resources and puts them all in one game.
Sorry, while we're on LucasArts, I'll say that to the best of my knowledge so far, any LucasArts game I've played that does have voice acting, it's been pretty flawless.
Yeah, even Sam and Max especially, I'm just thinking in my head, their voices were really freaking good.
Yeah, I can't think of any bad voice acting in a LucasArts game.
Mm-hmm. No, they destroy Sierra in this category.
Yeah,
they've got the money.
And even though it's common knowledge now that the CD version of Loom is kind of the inferior version of Loom, just because usually it comes down to the VGA graphics, and they kind of like edited a few bits out of it, so it's not really quite all there. But the voice is actually really good. Like the voice acting is really. It sucks that it had to be that it had to have such glaring downfalls, because the voice acting really did actually add a lot to it.
No, it really did. Yeah, I think the EGA is the best, but if anyone's to experience it, I would recommend trying the FM Towns version, because it's even better VGA art than the remake, and I think it's like the connoisseur's pick for, like, you know. Yeah. Well, then again, there's also a patch too.
Hey, speaking of patch, did you know that Secret of Monkey Island has a patch where you can play the original graphics with the special edition's voice acting?
Actually, no, I didn't.
Rick.
Not at all.
Do you guys remember a game called Loom?
There was a time, I would say, most of 2019 and some of 2020, where you couldn't be on a classic game forum on Facebook without hearing about the Monkey Island patch once a day. It was the new Loom patch. Yeah. Have you heard?
Now it's kind of shifted to the to that Guybrush portrait in Uncharted. That's kind of the daily post now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. The new Have you heard? Well, here's an interesting thing to kind of pick apart. Speaking of good voice acting, what game for you guys is better because of the voice acting? And I'll be lazy and use LucasArts for examples, because as we just said, the voice acting is solid across the board. Anna, as you said, particularly with Sam and Max, that's one of my picks. And also Indiana Jones, because the guy, I wish I could think of his name offhand. I'll pull it up in a second, but he's so bloody authentically Indiana Jones that it works. Mm-hmm. Like, it enhances the experience. It doesn't make it, there's nothing jarring about it. It's that good to me. So yeah, what would you guys say for, and here I'll properly start off. I would say Sam and Max. I'm not going to say Indiana Jones, despite what I just said, because it is great, but
thanks for wasting our time, Paul.
No worries. So that's just for you guys to chew on. There's some gristle. Because for me, the game's great without it also. Like, I think Sam and Max, I guess, for the, I don't know, to paint an idea of my train of thought with this question in general, is like, Sam and Max maybe needed a little boost. It's a really great game, but if anything, to me, Sam and Max is like I know I'm going to be hated for saying this, but it's like a little vanilla. It's just like a little, like, this is, it's a good time, but it's not like, oh, I fucking love this game. Like, it just needed something, like, extra, and the voice acting is it.
You know what, Paul? I got to say something, because I did fully agree with you a while back when you talked about how jarring it can be when the voice acting doesn't match the voice that you gave in your head. But as a counterpoint to that, I have to say that in Day of the Tentacle, the voices match the characters so much that it's pretty redundant. Like, there's no reason for the voices to be there, because they sound exactly like you already imagined that they would.
Okay.
Spot on.
No, that's an awesome point, and that's exactly what I was trying to say with Indiana Jones. Like, I would leave it off my list because it's redundant. It sounds like what I would think, and therefore I don't need it. Yeah, great way to put it.
And they're perfect. It's perfect too, right? But it's too perfect. I'm not saying that to say like, oh, it sucked. It's like, no, it was so good. The problem is it was too good. I just didn't need it.
Yeah, and at the risk of sounding like even more of a dick, I generally prefer my own internal narration. So, and that's kind of my whole point throughout this episode is like, I I'm much safer just relying on my own mind to come up with the voices and stuff. And if someone's going to do it for me, it better be done really, really good. And then to your point, if they do it really, really good, but just like how I would do it, I'm still going to just prefer the way I do it.
Yeah.
It's at my own pacing. Like, it gets rid of all the issues of timing and, you just, So I got Sam and Max. What do you guys got?
Yeah. Well, since you stole Sam and Max from me, I'm going to throw Grim Fandango in the ring. They had some great voices, Manny and them. Sal,
that was actually really good.
Glottis was good. The voices were good. It was exciting, and it made up for what actually I used to think they were really good graphics, but now looking back on the original, not the remaster, a holy cow chunky 3D, but it didn't look like that when I played it the first time, I swear.
Yeah. Grim Fandango, actually, I'm not going to take that from you, but I will back you up on that. I think that is actually a really good one, because that did actually give a good interpretation of the characters that I didn't really come up with myself, and it kind of really fits. So it did kind of like recalibrate me on the right track. So I think that actually was really good with the voice acting.
Cool.
Well, that's good for me to know, because I keep obviously meaning to play it. It's regarded as one of the GOATs. So maybe voice acting will be the thing that gets it over the hump of not being pixel art for me.
Yeah, it certainly won't be the controls on the original version, I'll tell you that. Yeah. It's like it's the tank control style, right?
Yeah. It kind of depends what you consider pixel art, though, Paul, because if you play like the original non-remastered version, it's pretty blocky.
It's pretty close. Yeah, it's
pretty dark.
It's actually closer to AGI than 3D.
Yeah.
Just larger blocks again.
It might have polygons, but boy, are those polygons pixely.
It is. It's like it's not Alone in the Dark. I'll tell you that. Like it's gone a bit beyond that, but not much.
As for an official pick for me, I honestly don't know. Any adventure game that I played pretty much was on floppy versions, even when I did get the sound card. So I'd like hear the music, but I really don't hear voices until I go back and play them now.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I'm in that boat very much so. It just, when we did get a sound card and stuff, it was on my mom's computer, so it's like I was given the other computer that had the PC speaker and none of that in it. So even when I moved out, it was a 486 with an internal PC speaker. So I wasn't like rocking to the tunes quite yet.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just for the sake of it, I would say the Space Quest 6, just because I'm still not that big a fan of that game. So just the fact that it has Gary Owens doing the narration is kind of the redeeming quality of the game.
Did you ever finish it?
I did not, no.
I didn't think you did, unless I would have missed the stream then. I'm waiting for that one, Rick.
I think you left off right where it gets good, because I remember where you left off was where I was frustrated. Yeah, Anna, you would agree too, where it's like it is the point where a point of like no return, because it's like that's the exact point where your patience gets tested. Yeah. Where it's like I don't know, man.
It is rewarding,
and then
though.
It does. Yeah, it does open up a lot after that. But
yeah, it really does.
So I guess Space Quest 6 would be kind of my pick, because it's sort of like without the voice acting, what do you even really have?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's true. Because
although I guess you said it gets better, towards the second half or something, right?
Yeah, it opens up a lot, because you're kind of confined to the point you're at where it's like all you know is being stuck on that planet and then kind of stuck in the ship. And then once you were literally at the part where, for the listeners too, where you slide the key card in the laboratory on the ship. And that's when you go back to your room, and that's when you can pick, what level you want to visit and start checking out new levels, and each level has a branching thing to do. And yeah, it literally opens up at that point. But regardless, it still makes the game. Like, I think I used to like Space Quest 6 more than I thought I did, just because of Gary Owens.
Yeah.
And then we did, doing this show and analyzing things on a nerdier, deeper level so many times. I came to the conclusion that the game's just got so many problems. I think it really gets by on Gary Owens hard.
And sorry, can I say for the record again, just because I know we've kind of been giving misinformation the first few times we talked about Space Quest 6 on the show. And there were a few things that we just didn't quite remember properly, so we're kind of accusing it of certain things that weren't entirely true. So going back and playing it, I kind of made me realize, oh, I totally missed out on this whole section here where they totally did the thing that I thought they didn't do. And as you said, Paul, it kind of makes it worse. Like,
100%.
Yeah. It's like,
100%.
So they actually addressed this, and it's still horrible. That
it's weird being wrong, but your point being solidified even more.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's totally what I was feeling. When I was playing the game, like I was sort of like, I stand corrected, but not the way you want me to be.
But to everyone's surprise, I'm about to double down. Because here's the deal. To people wondering what we're talking about, we were accusing it of making zero mention of Beatrice throughout the whole game. And then we had both got, Rick had replayed it, sent me a screen footage of him and sorry, with the hot dog forehead.
Santiago.
Thank you. Where they have like a little exchange, and
they full on mention Beatrice.
They do.
Yeah, and they fully mention it, but they do it in such a sloppy throwaway manner that what I took away from it was, when you didn't briefly mention her one single time in the game, at least I could pretend that it was like an alternate reality or a different timeline, or like, you can start to fanfic your way into making it make sense. Yeah. But now that they actually put her in the canon and have Roger be like, I can't do that to Beatrice, and then 3 minutes later be like, I can do that to Beatrice, see you at dinner.
Yeah, because he's all regretful. Now, he's like, oh man, I'm with that chick. Like, ugh.
Yeah,
and he says like he can't do it to her, but then he caves because she does give him quite a guilt trip. But he caves and goes out to eat with her. So it's like, now you just made Roger a scumbag. A, you dicks. I love him.
Not even really, because that was kind of my thing. Was sort of like he's like, I would take you to dinner, but I'm kind of with somebody right now, and I'm like, she just saved your life. Buy her a fucking dinner.
Like they didn't have to make it weird. It could have been like, let's go for dinner, but of course it's a chick. There has to be sexual tension. The end.
I owe you a meal. I go to dinner with my female friends all the time. Like seriously, it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I remember this conversation because we came to the conclusion that he overshared.
Yeah.
Like there's no need to write those lines. Don't have him like in a weird guilty way for a fictional character to have him like, weasel in and out of justifying it. Just don't make it a weird sexual thing. But they did. And hence it just kind of does make the whole thing a little more infuriating.
Yeah, it's like you said, it was just it was just so much worse for having that scene in there. Yeah, exactly. Just
but yeah, and I should say too, just a quick annotation. I said that it gets by on Gary Owen's back, but I should say Gary Owens and the writers, of course, because the lines that Gary's saying are great too. So I didn't want to.
I think Josh Mandel wrote a lot of it, or at least the part that I've played. I'm pretty sure most of that was almost all of that, if not actually all of that was Josh Mandel, and he is a good writer. He's a funny guy.
Yeah. And speaking of Josh Mandel, he had mentioned that a lot of the problem with the King's Quest V, as a refresh, Josh Mandel's the voice of King Graham in King's Quest V, and he had mentioned during production that the direction for the voice actors was the problem. I guess you could say, what kind of, acknowledging that he and everybody else was just, employees at Sierra. They weren't professional actors. He was basically saying that, that's not ideal, but I think, it was almost showcased that we weren't in the way that it was directed. And then he went on to bring up the point that I made in the beginning of the episode, which was, look at Laura Bow 2. It's not that bad. And it was all in-office, quote, actors. But because the direction, in Mandel's opinion, for that project was really good, he was saying that there's the difference. Like that's the difference a quality voice director can make.
I can totally agree with that. Just having had a background as doing little short films and stuff like that, I can definitely say that there is a very notable difference between a director who actually cares about getting the best performance out of the actors compared to the people who just want to yell action and cut and think that they're a director now.
Right. Yeah, and you could see somebody bamboozling Sierra early days, you know, like they don't know I'm full of shit, you know, and I'll get the job, and they did.
Well, I just have a question. Like, I mean, all due respect to voice actors, and I see a lot of Kickstarters stretch really hard to get voice acting as one of their goals. I'm trying to still decide if it's a goal that is pertinent to me at all. Like, if they're going to go for all that effort to get voice acting, am I just going to turn it off anyway? And I might.
Right. Yeah. I my personal, I recognize that it's solely personal, and I think that myself and you, Anna, and to be determined, Rick, in a second here, are in the minority, because it feels like most people do want it. But for me, I kind of just don't. Like, I'd rather turn it off. I always will give it a chance, and I will say that the modern indie games have had quality acting, you know, which is no surprise, at least in comparison to back in the day, because, you know, they're actually getting professionals to do it. Kathy Rain has great voice acting. Whispers of a Machine with our friend Ivy Dupler is incredible in that. Legitimately, I've genuinely felt that way before we even had her on the show, and I, you know, knew her as that person.
Yeah,
but
no, I totally agree. St. Christopher's, Blackwell, all those games. I have no complaints at all whatsoever. No issues.
Yeah, all the Wadget Eyes. Yeah. But do we need them? I don't like. I don't. In the best case scenario, I don't mind it. Like, I wouldn't have turned. I didn't turn off, you know, Whispers of a Machine's voice acting, because it was great. But I can't say, like, I definitely would have still played it without it. And would I have enjoyed it more or less? I think it would just be the same.
Yeah.
So I do have to say one thing, just because, like, when I talk to you guys, obviously I just get right into adventure game mode. So there was one game that I wanted to bring up here, which is the original Baldur's Gate, which is the one that I played. I've not really gotten very far into Baldur's Gate 2. No, and the voice acting was really good there, like really good. I would even say that, like, it's definitely something you should play with the voices on.
Yes.
But again, Paul, like you said about how there's that one voice that takes it down for you. It's just it's not even like a full character. It's just every time you run into bandits or something like that, you always get the same line, and it's always the same voice every time you encounter them. And for some reason, they played it real goofy. Like, the guy's like, "I serve the flaming fist," and it's like, what the hell was that? Like, seriously, like, who approved that? Like, who?
I always thought they were taking somebody from, like, Warcraft, one of their voices, and putting it in the game for one of the bad guys.
That would have almost been better. But I just, like,
StarCraft.
Who decided? Who directed this? It's like, okay, make sure you're like a real douche / bonehead and run with that, because the guy just sounded. I can't. Oh man, every time I heard it, I just completely. It took me right out of it. For so many levels.
Yeah, it's just a quick voice being like, "This is a game. This is just destroying your immersion."
Like, yeah, I didn't feel like the voice fit the environment. I thought that it was almost playing for comedy, I would almost even say. It also, like,
it just didn't fit. That was such a serious game.
And just the fact that it was always the same voice every time you encounter them.
Yeah.
And just, but otherwise, it's phenomenal. Otherwise phenomenal.
Yeah. It was the first open world kind of a game I'd ever played. It shocked me what it was like, because I'd never played a game like it before. Yeah.
So that's my final thought on voice acting, so I'll leave the rest to you guys for now.
It just, your example there just reminded me of like hearing like the Wilhelm scream in like Schindler's List.
Yes. Yeah, that would exactly be it. That's a perfect analogy. Like, especially if you know exactly what the Wilhelm scream is, right? Like, it's one of those things which is always there, and you never really notice until you know about it, and now you always hear it. So imagine if you have that awareness of it, and then it happens in Schindler's List, right? That's so perfect.
So, my final thought, I just wanted to say, I feel bad for kind of dumping on voice actors, saying that even if you do the best you could possibly do, that I'd still be impartial. But I'll just say I'm just really sensitive and picky about it, basically, at the end of the day, because the voice actor could do a perfect job, but then it's like, what about your peers, the rest of the cast? Could they have done something wrong? And without knowing what I think of when I think of your character, what if you don't hit the tone that I was expecting? You hit the tone for 80% of the population. Like there's no way to please everybody when you choose a character and things like that. So I think it's almost impossible to hit out of the park. And then even if they do, it could end up being redundant, as we said with Indiana Jones. So yeah, that's my final thought. Sorry for my child.
No, it's cool. I totally agree with that in the sense that I have the highest respect for voice actors. I know a lot of voice actors, like even just outside of gaming, although they have done games too. And so I know what goes into it. And I know how much talent you need to have and how much skill you need to have to really do it well. So no disrespect. I have the highest respect for them. And I'm glad for any project that gets them paying work. But I'm just saying for my personal, like you said, it kind of gets a little bit lost on me because, like I said, I either click past it or I kind of get impatient waiting for it to end. And it's just sort of, I hope it never stops. I just need to find exactly that perfect medium of being able to appreciate it without it getting in the way.
Yeah, and maybe the answer to that is partial, like Saint Christopher's. There's something nice about having the human touch to important moments and stuff, but otherwise letting you just adventure game without it.
Actually, that is a point which I keep wanting to bring up, and I never really do. I would love, for me, I think the ideal would be if just text boxes for almost everything, but then voice acting for the cutscenes.
Yeah, that would be fine with me. I'd love that. That's like Nintendo kind of did stuff like that a little bit later when they finally added in a tiny bit of voice.
I think that's what Phoenix Wright does. They do fully voice acting for the cutscenes, but the actual game itself, they leave that. And I think that's perfect. That's great.
Yeah, you get to know what people sound like if you want to and carry on.
And then once that's in your head, then you know the voice to hear in your head when you read the text.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You kind of take it and run with it. Yeah, that's as opposed to, Alexander, you can't blah blah. Like, just please stop. You need need a break. Some breathing space. All right, we're good. I'm good.
Okay. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time at the end here just to go over the last episode. We talked about the references versus Easter eggs, and there was a couple of good engagement with the listeners. Two in particular that I just really felt deserved some airtime here. The first one coming from Michael Zier. I hope I pronounced that properly. This was a post that was made in the Classic Gamers Guild Facebook group in response to when we posted the episode. And he says, at the end of the episode, you ask about other terms for certain types of references that don't rise to the level of Easter egg. And I'll just insert here, but it is kind of like rewarding to understand the reference. So back to his words, there is one, but it's more common in the LucasArts circle, so you might not use it as often. It's the in-joke. The term is often used for references within the community, such as 7-Max reference inside of Indiana Jones. It would also be appropriate for when Larry appears in Police Quest 2. And I feel really stupid for not having thought of that at the time. Because in-joke is exactly what it was. I even had the term in my head several times. I might have even said it. I can't remember if it actually made it into the episode, but I'm pretty sure I've referenced in-jokes, and it just never occurred to me to actually bring
Connect
it up at that moment. Yeah.
Right.
No, that is exactly it. So I guess to finish the point with the correct terminology now, it is so many Easter eggs are really just in jokes. That's what we were struggling to say for 46 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, very good call.
If you're listening to this episode and you missed last episode, you kind of don't need to anymore. That's
good to go. Yeah, caught up.
Yeah, really succinct right there. That's it.
Yeah. There's Easter eggs, there's references, and there's in-jokes. Done. All right. This email comes from Sydney Hamilton, who is a friend of the show. She's been on before, and she has written to us before. So it's always good to hear from her.
Hi, Sydney.
Hi, Sydney.
Hi, Sydney.
And she says, "Hi, Rick, Paul, and Anna. I'm listening to the most recent CGG podcast and just wanted to point out the difference between an Easter egg and a reference is that a reference is part of the game design, while an Easter egg is something that programmers added. The original Easter eggs by Atari programmers, and she references the Wikipedia article that points to I'm pretty sure that was Adventure. And she goes on to say, my contract with the Coles in regards to Hero U and Summer Days specified no Easter eggs, so I couldn't say put in shoutouts to my RP characters without consent. But there were plenty of references in the game to various Sierra adventure games. Less relevant nowadays in modern adventure games where the designer is usually the programmer and probably the artist, but super relevant to the 70s and 80s where there were lots of programmers who weren't credited or given freedom for creative expression. Hope this helps some and isn't over-explaining, and hope all of you are well. Thank you very much, Sydney. It's always great to hear from you. And that's really interesting to note, because I didn't really think of it like that. Easter eggs are sort of like kind of programmers gone rogue, in a way.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, programmers' thumbprint or fingerprint. It's really kind of neat.
Especially since they often weren't able to put in any of the names of any of their programmers or anybody else who worked in the game. Like, they simply weren't allowed to. So this was their only way really to communicate with us that, hey, we were here and we did a thing.
Yeah.
Really good point. Yeah.
So again, and she even says it was probably more relevant in the 70s and 80s than it is now. And I just wanted to say, yeah, that's definitely true, because at the time, they had to get these in because for the reasons mentioned above. And it was just kind of a thing that would happen. I think when Easter eggs became more popular starting with the 90s and especially thereafter, I think Easter eggs just became such a thing that people deliberately put them in. I don't think that disqualifies them as Easter eggs, because again, you always bring up the example of like the DVDs with the secret code that you put in. Those are clearly put in there, like those are totally Easter eggs,
by design.
By design. So I don't think those should be disqualified from being considered Easter eggs. But again, I think this is just sort of like a direction that it went in. But originally, I think in the 70s and 80s, the whole snuck in by the programmers was definitely a lot more of a practical definition.
Yeah, I think it's almost fair to say that the resurgence of Easter eggs, which I couldn't put a year on because I haven't thought about it prior, but just to shoot at the hip, I'll say like 2008, like, period of time where 1995 or 3 was far enough away, to where we could start being like, remember the thing. And my point is, I think the resurgence of Easter eggs turned out to be, that was the flood of things that were in jokes. Like we started calling them, just at some point we switched gears and started calling in jokes Easter eggs. And I feel like it was that period.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
Out of the programmer's hands at that point too, because it's, whoever's writing the game wants that Guybrush thing in there. So yeah. Yeah. Or obviously whatever the Easter egg is, that's probably the most common.
So that's it for me. I am going to shut up now and probably fall asleep before you're done.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. We're done. That's talkie versions for you. If you played a LucasArts talkie version, you're good to go. If you played a Sierra one, maybe try the floppy. Is the moral of the story. And come join the discussion in the community. We're on Facebook, we're a page, we're a group. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at CGG Podcast, and send us an email, mail@classicgamersguild.com. We would bloody just be enamored to receive mail from you. Specifically, John. Sarah? All right, sorry. I'm going to get that one day, though. Blow somebody's mind. Also, become a Patreon to support the show if you want to. And thank you very much to all of our Patreons. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And extra special thanks to those in said tier, which would be Una and Gus, Jean-Francois Paget, J. Holmes, Mark Fillion, Bloody Wishlist is Game Chinatown Detective Agency. It's on Steam. Thank you very much. And give our podcast a review, because other podcasters say that, but we never do. So, do that. Whatever your platform, if it's iTunes or Spotify, and give us unless it's going to be less than 4 stars, then just don't give us a review, because just no thanks. That's not. All right, we're done here. So don't do a murder.